what it says is a temporary shutdown of social media sites. The authorities have been taking action against a hardline Islamist party that's held days of violent protests. Here's Electra Naismith.
A statement from Pakistan's Interior Ministry said all access to platforms including Facebook, YouTube, TikTok and Twitter would be blocked for several hours. No official reason was given by the government, but Pakistan's Telecommunication Authority says it was asked to take immediate action to maintain public order and safety. It comes a day after the government approved a ban on the radical Pakistan Islamist party Tehreek-e-Labbaik. The arrest of its leader on Monday sparked days of nationwide protests in Pakistan. At least 4 police officers have been killed.
World news from the BBC. China's economy continues to rebound from the coronavirus pandemic, registering 18% growth in the first quarter of the year. The figure is particularly high because it's compared with the same period last year, when China was in a lockdown. Andrew Walker reports.
China was the first country hit by the pandemic and the first major economy to recover from it. The new figure is so strong because it's the first time that the decline last year has been the baseline for calculating subsequent growth. The National Bureau of Statistics has also given an average annual growth figure for the 2 years up to the most recent quarter, a figure less distorted by the pandemic. At 5%, it is weaker than previous years. That probably does partly reflect the health crisis, but at the same time, China's economy has undergone a gradual and planned slowdown in the last decade.
Iran says it has now raised the level at which it enriches uranium to 60%, which constitutes a major breach of the International Nuclear Accord. The government announced its intention to step up the enrichment process this week. It said this was a response to an act of sabotage at a nuclear plant blamed on Israel. The boosting of the enrichment program has overshadowed talks in Vienna aimed at rescuing the 2015 Iran nuclear agreement. Health officials in Kano State in northern Nigeria say at least 10 people have died and dozens have required kidney treatment after consuming a locally made orange drink. More than 400 people have fallen sick, with symptoms including vomiting and diarrhoea. Several people have been arrested. A conservation charity in Scotland is calling for the Culloden battlefield to be made a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's exactly 275 years ago today that British government forces defeated the rebel Jacobite army, ending its campaign to overthrow King George II. BBC News.
天天在一起，天天用心听，听见台北的声音。FM 93.1，幸福永远属于你。
公民总主笔，
方恩格时间。
谁当家？
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 你当家？
谁当家？
谁当家？谁当家？
谁当家？我当
家？
你当家？我当家？
我当家？
到底谁当家？你来当家。
Welcome to Residence Messenger on Taipei Broadcasting Station. I'm your host, Ross Darrell Feingold. Today, our very special guest is another esteemed member of Taiwan's musical community who has gone overseas for success, but now, fortunately, I'm happy to say, is back here in Taiwan with us and to bring back her musical skills. Percussionist Alice Pan Yun-Ru, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Hi, Ross. Hi.
Now, before we talk in detail about your work as a percussionist, also as an educator, you're a member of the Taiwan Percussion Arts Alliance. Mm-hmm. You have an upcoming performance with the Zhongjang High School Wind Ensemble.
Yeah.
But before we talk about all that, tell us a bit about yourself. Where in Taiwan are you from?
I was born in Taipei and raised in Danshui. So before high school, I studied in schools in Danshui and then moved to Taipei, my aunt's house, for my high school and college.
Was there something about growing up in Danshui that sparked an interest in percussion instruments?
Well, not really, but for like the my cultural background, I think it influenced me a lot because it's a really, really pretty little town, and there's a lot of schools there.
Was there other musical influences, though, as a child? Were there family members who were musicians or singers? Was it something that inspired you to develop an interest?
Actually, no.
Or did you have a favorite performer as a child that sparked your interest in music?
Well, I listened to a lot of pop songs when I was little, and my childhood dream is to become a pop singer. So I think that's one of them. I like to perform in front of people.
What was the first percussion instrument that you actually picked up and started to play with?
I'll say it's bongo. So it's a two little drum put together. And I joined the Jew percussion education team, and then they start with that instrument.
Is that typical for young learners with percussion to start with the bongos?
Well, not really. I think only the Jew percussion use that for the child. Other places, they usually just start with drumstick and the pad.
And that's probably what those of us who are not so familiar with music and different types of music, when we think of percussion, a lot of us just think drums. But actually, maybe you could help us understand a little bit. Percussion would include which instruments?
Yeah, so percussion, whatever you can hit with your hand or whatever you can hit can be a percussion instrument.
Well, that sounds a little scary. So yeah, let's make sure it's only instruments, not people.
Well, actually,
so that's the definition. Whatever you could hit is a percussion instrument.
It's a percussion. Yeah, we also have songs like Body Language. We basically hit ourselves. So that's that. And for like classical percussion instruments, we have drums that people usually know, and we also have keyboard percussion instruments such as marimba, vibraphone, xylophone, stuff like that. And also there's another really big category that's we call traditional instrument for like other culture.
Yeah, there's a stereotype also for young musical groups like in schools that the child who couldn't figure out anything else, they make them do like the cymbals or something.
Yeah.
But that's not fair, right?
Yeah, that's not fair. Cymbal is actually really hard.
Yeah, well, what aspects are hard for cymbals?
Well, of course, it's easy to make sound, right? But to make what we call a quality sound is not that easy.
Okay, so everyone out there, please don't make fun of the cymbal player. The child who's assigned to play the cymbals in the school band. That actually requires some skill as well.
Oh yeah, of course.
What age did you get your first marimbas and drum set?
My first marimba, I got it when I was in 5th grade, because I started to take private lesson on marimba with my teacher. So my parents helped me get my first little marimba.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, because marimba looks kind of large for someone in 5th grade to be able to handle.
Yeah, it is. There's like different sizes of marimba, and I got a little one.
Yeah, you need a little step to stand on for the marimba?
I can't really remember. Maybe.
Was it unusual, though, for young girls to start to focus on percussion? When you start to focus and take private lessons, marimba, is that unusual, though?
Yeah, it's actually really unusual.
Why is that?
Well, I think because most of the girls wants to be, elegant and pretty. So they don't want
hitting the drums or the marimba's not elegant?
Yeah, they like to play violin, play flute. That's pretty. That like a princess, and they don't really want to play drum in the back of the band.
Yeah, but of course, as you become more successful as a marimba and drum player, you get to move to the front. And
do
your own performance. Speaking of your own performance, what age did you do your first public performance?
As I remember, it's about 6th grade. Yeah, but that's with the school band, of course. For the first solo performance, it's in my junior year in college.
So that's quite a considerable amount of time. Well, why did it take so many years to go from starting to being a solo performer?
Well, it started with I have to talk a little bit about my dad. My dad wants me to learn music because he wants me to have a habit in my life. So when I, face something, struggle or stuff, I can go to the music. So I went to like what we call normal class in elementary school, junior high, and high school. I didn't do like music talent class at all. And in my high school, I decided that I really want to pursue my music as my career, you know. So I went into Soochow University for a music major.
And for a music major, your major was performance music art. What is the coursework that a student in that major would typically take?
So our there are three main courses. First is, of course, the lesson, which means it's usually one-on-one, and you have to play, you have to learn like sheet music, you have to learn songs for like the jury. And there are music history, and there are music theory. And for undergrad, we also take like common courses like Chinese, second language. We also take PE class, but we're not like...
Was the PE, was that to help you with banging the drums and the percussion instruments? You do some weightlifting?
I think it does help a little bit.
Yeah, it helps to be in good shape if you're a performer.
Yeah. And also I was doing Taekwondo for my PE class. So
which should also help with your, what do you call it in Mandarin, like your Ti Li for being able to perform on stage. You mentioned to me before the show began that when you perform, you still get nervous sometimes. So what about that first time that you performed when you were in college? You said your first solo performance. Were you nervous? I assume you were quite nervous.
I was definitely nervous, but it was also very exciting because it was, first it was unusual for a junior student to do a full solo recital. So I feel like I'm doing something that's really special, and my private lesson teacher was also there to like encourage me to. And another thing is, I have been working on the repertoire for that recital for many years, so I wasn't that nervous, but I still get like a little bit of anxiety before the performance.
And what do you do nowadays when you have anxiety before a performance? Do you have a secret that you want to share with younger performers who are listening to the show to help them with their own anxiety?
Well, I do a lot of things actually. I practice playing under the anxiety during my practice time. And I also bring like Lucky Charm.
Yeah, this sounds like a professional athlete. You know, it's like some of the baseball players that have their lucky socks or something.
You always have that. And in the United States, I have this little rabbit doll, and I always bring it with me.
Where's the rabbit doll hiding when you're performing on the stage there?
In the backstage.
It's in the backstage.
Yeah, it's in my mallet bag.
After that first performance, when you were still in school here in Taipei, did you continue to do performances while you're in school, or you're just too busy with your coursework to be able to perform regularly?
I think it's pretty busy for the coursework, but fortunately, our school also provides some performance opportunity. Like we have to take orchestra or brass band and stuff, so that provides us a little bit of performance opportunity every semester. And
did you like being in the brass band versus some of the other types of orchestras or other types of groupings of musicians?
Well, my favorite is percussion ensemble, of course. Then I really like brass band and wind ensemble, and I really don't like orchestra.
What's wrong with the orchestra? I mean, that's where so much of the beautiful music comes from, right?
It is. I like listen to orchestra. I love the sound of orchestra, but because of some bad experience, I'm a little afraid of playing in the orchestra.
Is this related to the other musicians or to the conductors?
To the conductors.
well, again, you know, those of us who aren't experts, we have stereotypes, and sometimes those conductors they look a little bit fierce, don't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and sometimes because they only have like this little rehearsal time, and they have to deal with so many people and so like large repertoire, so sometimes their way of communication is a little bit rough. So that's why I'm like a little bit afraid of some of the conductors.
No more orchestras for you. You're just going to listen, not participate.
Yeah.
And then you went to the U.S. You got a master's of percussion performance at Ithaca.
Yeah.
a bit cold up there in Ithaca.
Very cold.
And you got a doctoral of music arts degree from Michigan State University, also a bit cold. You seem to like cold places. I guess that keeps you inside studying and performing. But tell us about those degree programs. What do you study in the master's program, and what do you study in the PhD, the doctor program? Do you have to write a thesis? Tell us about these academic programs.
For master, it's actually very similar to the bachelor degree. You have lessons, you have some coursework you have to do, but you don't have anything that's you don't have anything that's like outside of music. But because of I'm from other country, so I have to take English speaking class and writing class. Yeah. And for my DMA, my PhD, it's also the same thing, but they put a lot of effort into orchestra and percussion ensemble. And also, I think the fun thing is we have music history class, but you get to choose like very specific topic for your music history.
How long does this Doctor of Music Arts program typically take? How many years?
3 to 10.
3 to 10. It's like going for a medical doctor. That's pretty intense. Did you write a thesis as part of that?
Yeah.
And what was your thesis about?
Well, it's about the possibility of marimba, and I transcribed the fifth string quartet for Bela Bartok for marimba quartet. And basically, I'm doing research on how to mimic the sound of strings from marimba.
And as part of your thesis, is there a musical selection incorporated into the thesis, or is it just a written document like any other thesis?
Well, we have to have a written document, and we also have to have a lecture recital, which means you have to really talk about your dissertation and then play for people. Yeah.
So it's like a oral defense for other types of thesis. Yeah. Did you know you wanted to be an educator as well? What developed your interest, not just in playing, but in educating as well?
Yeah, so my father was a professor at the university in Taiwan. So I think I have been seeing how he reacts with students since I was really young. I actually didn't think that I'll become a teacher one day, but to think back, I think I really like to, teach people stuff that I know. And when I graduated when I was about to graduate from Michigan State, I get this teaching job. I'm like, well, I'll try it. And after that, I actually really, really like it. And I think it also helped me to, learn my own music better. A lot of music teachers, they teach because they have experience. And they're just good musicians, and they're good with young learners. But you're a bit different because you actually have a master's and a PhD. You have these extraordinary qualifications. For parents who are thinking about music lessons for their children, what's the difference between going to a music teacher who has spent as much time as you have obtaining very advanced degrees in music versus learning with a very experienced musical performer? I think it really depends, because I think what I can provide for my students is not only the technique. I can provide them more about like an overall thing based on like the history I studied, the research that I did for them, to put all this knowledge into their music. And also I always think that music is about people, human feeling. So I also focus a lot on like how they can put their feeling into their music, how they can interpret their music differently based on individual students.
You've also participated in a lot of competitions. You've been around the world: Australia, Taiwan, Japan, China. As a soloist, you've competed with ensembles. What happens in a percussion competition?
Well, I mainly do marimba competition, so it's a little bit different from like percussion competition and marimba competition. And for marimba competition, it's actually very similar to like what you know about the violin competition, piano competition. There's like different rounds, and you have to pass each round to the final round, you know. And for percussion competition, it's a bit different. There's still like rounds and rounds you have to pass, but you can see a lot of different things, like I mentioned that we have songs that's hitting the body, so you can see people in the competition hitting their body on the stage, or just play a maraca on the stage, or use a lot of like theatric effect on the stage.
So for our audience, which one is more fun, a percussion competition or a marimba competition?
Well, it depends, because for me, percussion competition is definitely fun. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff, but a lot of people think that's too weird. That's not music. So it really depends. For marimba competition, you can actually, you know, enjoy pretty music if you like that kind of music.
And what selections would you typically play at a marimba competition? You know, what connects with the audience or with the judges at a marimba competition?
Yeah, usually for like first round or second round, you're required to play Bach. So you get like the cello suite, and then you have to play on marimba, or the violin partita, you have to play on marimba. And you get to choose like what we call classic marimba repertoire, like composer like Kiko Abe, Joseph Schwanner. And for the third round, usually they invite a composer to write new music for the competition, and then you get to choose one more piece for like that you really like or can express yourself.
And how do you express yourself? I mean, how do you distinguish yourself? If the other competitors are playing the same piece, how do you distinguish yourself from the other competitors in a marimba competition?
Well, I'm very emotional. Like I said, I think for music, you have to hear a lot of emotion in it. So I always like put extra in it. And I mentioned to you before the show, I also really like to sing. So for some of the competition in the final round, I prepare like singing a marimba piece.
So you just start suddenly singing while you're playing. And in a marimba competition, is it like a piano or a violin competition where those of us in the audience were supposed to sit very quietly and behave ourselves, or or in percussion or marimba, is the audience more likely to cheer, clap, bag their seats, or stamp their feet on the floor? Or do you have to be very quiet as the audience as well?
Well, usually for the marimba competition, audience pretty quiet. Yeah, but I sing competitions that the performance is really really good and perform really amazing, so people like stand up and shout out. I also sing that too.
Yeah, so you encourage that. If people come to see you, you want them to start
I love that.
Clapping, standing. Okay, so people listening to the audience, please go to a marimba competition and get up, stand, right? Yeah, make some noise. Yeah. But there'll probably be some more traditionalists in the audience. They'll get mad if people do that.
Well, maybe. Also, maybe I think the jury might get mad because they really need to listen to the performance.
And when you've been playing with ensembles and chambers worldwide, do you have a favorite experience that you remember from the past? You mentioned sometimes the audience participated. Is there any other kind of unique experience that occurred that stands out in your memory?
Yeah, I remember that there's one time I played with Michigan State University Percussion Ensemble in the church, and then we just play like a song, and we have learned this song for like years, so we can like play it by memory. And then we also play it like a zombie because we have played it so many times. But then there's two kids just stand up and start to like come to the front of the stage and start to dance. We saw it, we really like it, and that was amazing. I can't really express the feeling, but that was really, really amazing.
Yeah, the church just inspired them to sing. We're going to take a break shortly, but as we go into the break, we're going to hear one of your musical selections. Tell us about this musical selection.
Yeah, so this song is called Blues for Gilbert. It means a lot to me because when the second year I was in the United States, I miss home a lot and I was about to quit. And because of this song, I start to learn this song, and I really think, learning music is such a beautiful thing. So this song sort of like helped me keep my path on the percussion.
Yes, yeah, you were very upset, and you missed home. You were thinking of giving.
Yeah, it was really cold.
It was really cold, and you start listening to this song, and were you able to immediately start playing as well, or it took a while to learn the piece?
I was able to sight read the piece really slow, of course. But I really feel the emotion in the song, and I really like it. And that just made me feel happy and lucky to have music in my life.
And the recording that we're going to listen to, where and when was that made?
Oh, I think it was 2018. And it was recorded at the university, Michigan State University, and it was also one of the songs in my album.
And is it just you playing, or are there other people?
Me and my friend. There's a vibraphone and pianist.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to go into a commercial break, and as we do so, we're going to listen to one of Alice Pan's musical selections. Let's take a listen.
Awesome.
亲爱的朋友，您还在吸烟吗？快拿着健保卡到戒烟门诊或拨打戒烟专线0800636363。提醒您，最近兴起的电子烟、加热烟，因为没有浓浓的烟臭味，就被认为无害。其实已经证实，新兴烟品都有二手烟及三手烟的危害，甚至还有爆炸的风险。我是义工蔡依林，所有烟品都 get out。我拒烟，我骄傲。
谁当家？
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 你当家？
谁当家？谁当家？
谁当家？
谁当家？我当家。你当家？我当家。
我当家。
到底谁当家？你来当家。
Welcome back to Residence Messenger. Our guest today is Alice Pan Yun Ru, marimba player, percussionist, educator. We were just listening to one of your musical selections. On the education side, you've been an adjunct instructor of percussion at the University of North Alabama. What do you teach there? What courses?
I teach applied percussion lesson, and mainly on the keyboard percussion.
And those courses are not for beginners. This is for students who already have a significant amount of musical experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I also teach percussion ensemble.
What do you like about living in that part of Alabama? Because this is, kind of way up there in the north of Alabama.
Yeah,
near Tennessee.
It's very different from.
Well, I think that's a very nice thing to say. That's diplomatic.
Well, it's definitely the cutest town I have ever been to. Yeah, and I have been studying in the North America, and now I'm in the South America. There's a lot of different things, so I feel like I'm learning different things every day.
Well, I think that's why they call it, with all due respect to our friends from that part of the United States, that's why they call it the Deep South. Yes.
Yes. Yep.
But actually, the location of the University of North Alabama is about 2.5 hours drive, both from Nashville as well as from Memphis in Tennessee. Two cities with a very significant musical history. Of course, Memphis for Elvis and Nashville for country music. Did this ever inspire you in your own musical journey, being so close to the heart of both country music as well as rock and roll with Elvis?
Since I only been there for couple months and then the COVID-19 happened, but I definitely see a lot of like country music bar. That's a very different thing for me because I'm not that familiar with country music. I find it really interesting.
So you just walk into one of these country music bars in North Alabama. A Taiwanese girl just suddenly walks in.
Yep.
That must have stopped the show. They must have all kind of looked at who is this?
It doesn't really stop the show, but the singer on the stage does like spot me on the audience.
Did you go up and play in these country music bars
I did not.
in northern Alabama?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, did you spot Elvis when you were in northern Alabama, since it was not too far from Memphis? Did you see him?
No, unfortunately. I wish I could.
And now you're back in Taiwan, and you're doing some work with an organization called the Taiwan Percussion Arts Alliance, Taiwan Jiwa Ishu Lianmeng. I hope I got that correct. Tell us about the Taiwan Percussion Arts Alliance and what they do.
Yeah, so they do a lot of different things to like promoting percussion in Taiwan. Like their biggest thing is the percussion competition in July, and usually they have percussion competition for 3 days, and then they have like master classes, performances, and they invite people or percussion group from outside of country to perform and like doing exchange with the students in Taiwan. And starting from last year, they also start to do online competition and concert. So that's a new thing. But what I heard from the CEO she's going to do it like over and over again.
Because it's COVID-19 and a lot of these in-person competitions are canceled around the world. People don't want to travel, and that's understandable. Does Zoom or online, YouTube, what's the difference or the challenges for a percussion competition or a marimba competition doing it online versus in person?
Well, I think for online, first thing is for the competitors, they have to record it, which I know it's a little bit hard to understand, but we prefer live performance instead of recording. Recording for me, there's more pressure on that. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is, live performance is just different. You watch the competition online and you watch the competition in person, the feeling is very different. So that reduces the audience to like really go to the competition or know the competition or watch the competition.
And how could people participate in this upcoming competition? Is it open to people who are coming through a specific kind of pathway and they're able to reach this level? Or is it just open to anyone who knows how to play a percussion instrument?
Yeah. The one in July is actually open for everyone. So we have a lot of different categories. Like we have categories for professional musician, and we have categories for unprofessional, which means if you just know how to play a drum and you really want to try it, you really want to give yourself a chance on the stage to play, you can do it.
Because someone in the audience actually just sent us a question, and it's with regard to young children and encouraging young children to either be fans of percussion or just to be willing to want to learn more and to take lessons. Because you mentioned earlier in the show that a lot of parents might push their children into the violin, and especially young women, push them into the violin or the piano. How do you push children into the percussion instruments?
Well, first of all, don't push them to do anything, especially music. Yeah, because music, you need a lot of patience. But I think percussion, the good thing of percussion is it's really fun. So take them to a concert. Take them to a fun concert, or just buy a drum for them and then just let them hit it,
And that's the way to inspire.
Yeah, because that's fun. Hitting stuff is fun, especially for children. Yeah, so that's the thing. Or you can also, there's a lot of like classes for young children to do like percussion. I think percussion group class is a very good way for children to learn music and to learn how to react and play with people. So there's a lot of different places that you can do that. There's Jew percussion, there's mailing percussion, there's a lot of percussion group class in Taiwan. So I think that's a good way to start.
And what about reading the music, though? I mean, for young children especially, is that an important part of learning the percussion instruments, or could they get away with more limited reading ability and just bang, like you said, hit the drums?
Well, for me, because I'm a classical musician, I'll say reading the music is very, very important because it helps you. Well, you start with percussion, you might change it to other stuff, but reading the music is like reading another language. You get to learn so much more stuff. But also there's another side that, like we see people in Africa, in Brazil, they play music with feel, with spirit. They don't know how to read music. So that's if your children, if you happen to find that your children have like really good groove, and he really don't want to learn reading the music, I think that's fine. I have a couple students that they have like natural groove music. I send them to play drum set because it's a groovy instrument. They like it, and it doesn't require too much of like music reading, And if you push them to read music, they might quit this, So just to encourage them based on what they can do.
What do you say to the parents whose children don't have the groove, though? You mentioned some students do have the groove.
Read the music.
I mean, do you actually have to tell the parents, look, yeah, your children are very nice, but they don't have the groove?
Well, definitely, like I said, if you're being able to read the music, it's a good thing. And also, it's not that hard. You can help the children to read it, help them to learn to read it slowly. Don't push them to hey, you have to learn this quick or what. This is just a language. As long as you can read it, and that's good.
Do you ever have parents say to you, my children are interested in percussion instruments, but I'm worried about their hearing from banging on the drums?
Yes.
And what do you, as the educator and an expert in this field, how do you explain this? What's the answer that you give to parents?
Definitely protect your hearing is very important. So we wear ear protector all the time. Including
for young children studying percussion.
For sure. For little children, I always let them wear the big headphone so they can sort of hear themselves, but also protect their hearing. And there's one research saying that children before 3 years old should not play drum without the protector.
And what about people who say, I'd love to have my children learn percussion instruments, but the neighbors will get mad from the noise?
Well, send them to the school.
You get that feedback sometimes?
Yeah. Yep.
And are there mitigation measures that people could take at home? Maybe put padding on the walls. Does it work?
Yeah, that will definitely work. And there's actually a lot of ways to reduce the sound, and a lot of company are inventing a lot of things to a quieter practice pad, quieter marimba, or quieter mallets, that kind of stuff.
So technology is something that's changing the study of percussion and marimba as well.
Yeah, but I also think that one thing that my parents did really, really well is that they are really nice to our neighbor. They when I was little, they will get fruits and food to the neighbor.
Yeah, because you're going to be practicing with some noise. So you got to buy off the neighbor's happiness. Right. Tell us about the upcoming performance with the Zhongzheng High School Wind Ensemble.
So I also graduated from Zhongzheng High School, and this is I'll be playing in their final concert for the semester. And I'll be playing a marimba concerto with the Zhongzheng High School Wind Ensemble. And this concerto is by Gillingham. It's a very, very famous marimba concerto. It's a very vivid vibe of the concerto.
What do you have to adjust when you play with high school students? Because you're a professional and you're an experienced marimba player and percussionist. What do you have to change when you play with a high school group?
So when I practice, I prepare to play with. I prepare to deal with a lot of situation. For some section, when I look at it, I know that they might not be able to play the beats really stable. So I try to practice with my head, doing this to help them find the beats. Or for some section, I know that they are not able to play that fast. So I'll play it a little bit, practice in the slower tempo. Yeah.
And is this upcoming performance, it's open to the public? Do people need to buy tickets?
No, it's free.
Okay, so it'll be at Zhongzheng High School?
Zhongzheng High School, yeah.
Yeah, and the date?
It'll be June 11th.
Okay, and people are welcome to just show up and listen.
Just show up.
Please. And they're welcome to, as you said earlier, stamp their feet and clap and cheer.
Yeah.
Audience participation.
Whatever you feel like it.
Yeah, okay, great. Do you expect a lot of the high school students, their classmates, to attend, or is it typically more the family of the performers?
I think usually there will be a lot of high school people I think. I can't really promise. Yeah.
And we don't have much time left, but some more advice for your young percussionists in Taiwan, based on your experience studying here and studying and working overseas and competing in competition overseas, and especially for young lady percussionists out in the audience. What's your advice to them?
Well, first of all, don't be afraid. Because I used to be afraid because I'm surrounded by guys, and I feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. That is not true. If you practice hard and if you put more enough effort in it, you're going to be good. So don't be afraid, be brave on that. And also for everyone who's doing music, actually, I think a lot of people saying this, but I want to emphasize that again, that music come from human, it's come from heart. So when you play music, you have to really think, to be honest with the music, with yourself, with the audience.
Well, our guest today has been Alice潘韵如, marimba player and percussionist. And as we end the show, Alice, we're going to listen to a little bit more of your music. Tell us about this piece.
Yeah, so this piece is called Leaning on the Rail. Chinese is called Yigan. And this piece is more sound like a pop song, actually. My friend wrote it, and it was originally for guitar and singing, and I really, really like it. So I transcribe it to vibraphone and singing.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again, Alice. And
Thank you so much.
Let's listen to your music.
Yeah.